Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. Back today to talk about my anticipated releases. But I'm actually making a change going into 2025. Previously, you will have seen my anticipated releases for the next quarter. And so a change that I am making going forward for talking about books in 2025 and beyond is that I'm actually going to make these videos monthly. So this video in December is just going to be talking about books that are coming out in January. You know, we'll have a play around with this format, see whether or not I like it. So yeah, without much further ado, let's just get straight into these books. January is a really interesting month to start this off with because it's actually not until January the 16th that I come across the first book of the year that I'm actually quite interested in. But better late than never, and it is And He Shall Appear by Kate Vanderburg. I first came across this book because one of my friends who I work with actually has a proof copy of this. The proof arrived at our office and she kind of thrust it at me saying, "Look at this! It's really good, I think you'll like it." And then she promptly took it back from me. I might get my hands on this proof, who knows? But all the marketing for this says that it's a combination of the film Saltburn and The Secret History, so I'm thinking dark academia, morally ambiguous characters. In the hallowed halls of Cambridge, a dangerous obsession takes hold. When a young man arrives in Cambridge as a first-year student, he finds himself an outsider. There's the punting and the politics, the wine and the waistcoats, all seemingly familiar to everyone. Then he falls under the spell of Bryn Cavendish. A notorious party boy and skilled magician, Bryn is magnetic. To be in his circle is to revel in clouds of ecstasy, untouched by the rules. To be exiled is to haunt the peripheries of campus life like a ghost. As the academic year intensifies and Bryn's magic tricks become more sinister, one question lingers. Is Bryn's charisma the source of his influence, or does he wield a much darker and more dangerous power? Next up, coming out on the 21st of January, we have Let's Call Her Barbie, a novel by Renee Rosen. As you can imagine, I definitely got swept up into the Barbie craze last year. I'm wearing my Barbie pink, of course. And I think hot off the heels of the Barbie film, we're probably going to be getting a lot more media about Barbie. And here we have a historical fiction novel talking about Ruth Handler and her creation of Barbie. And I'm sure for people who saw the Barbie movie, this will be of interest because, you know, we see Ruth Handler, or I should say the character of Ruth Handler. There's hints about her history as the creator of Barbie, but we don't really get into much of that detail. So I feel like this novel will kind of fill that void for any people who are watching who might have wanted to know more, but wanted it in a more digestible way than a non-fiction. When Ruth Handler walks into the boardroom of the toy company she co-founded and pitches her idea for a doll unlike any other, she knows what she's setting in motion. It might just take the world a moment to catch up. In 1956, the only dolls on the market for little girls let them pretend to be mothers. Ruth's vision for a doll shaped like grown women and outfitted in an enviable wardrobe will let them dream they can be anything. As Ruth assembles her team of creative rebels, head engineer Jack Ryan, who hides his deepest secrets behind his genius, and designers Charlotte Johnston and Stevie Klein, whose hopes and dreams rest on the success of Barbie's fashion, she knows they're working against a ticking clock to get this wild idea off the ground. In the decades to come, through soaring heights and devastating personal lows, public scandals and private tensions, each of them will have to decide how tightly to hold on to their creation. Because Barbie has never been just a doll. She's a legacy. Coming out on the 30th of January, we have The Book of George by Kate Greathead. Now this kind of seems like it's on the cross between commercial and literary fiction, and seems like the kind of contemporary book that I wouldn't typically go towards, but the synopsis of this just made me really laugh. We all know a George. He's the kind of guy who's brimming with potential but incapable of following through. He doesn't know if he's in love with his girlfriend, but he certainly likes having her around. He's distant from, but still reliant on his mother. He swears he'll finish his novel one day. Sure, you might find him disappointing, but no one is more disappointed in George than George himself. As funny as it is astute and as singular as it is universal, The Book of George is an unexpectedly moving, never coming of age tale and a portrait of one man, but also countless others. I'm sure there are going to be a lot of people reading who can relate somewhat in some way to George. The penultimate new release on this list is The Blackbirds of St. Giles by Lila Kane. This is one that I only came across recently because the marketing for this has really kickstarted in the last couple of months. And I think what really drew me to this is there is a quote from Sean Lusk, who wrote A Woman of Opinion. That might not be the correct title, but it's the historical fiction about Lady Mary Wortley Montagu. So if he says it's good, it might be worth picking up. It's 1782. Daniel and his sister Pearl arrive in London with the world at their feet and their future assured. Having escaped a Jamaican sugar plantation, Daniel fought for the British in the American War of Independence and was rewarded with freedom and an inheritance. But the city is not a place for men like Daniel, and he is callously tricked and finds himself along with his sister Pearl in the rookeries of St. Giles, a warren of dark and menacing alleyways filled with violence and poverty. The underworld labyrinth is run by Elias, a man whose cruelty knows no bounds. but under his dangerous rule is a brotherhood of black men, the Blackbirds of St. Giles, whose intention is to set their people free. Can Daniel use his strength, wit and fellowship of the other Blackbirds to overthrow Elias and truly find the freedom he fought for? I just realised now I didn't actually say what the quote from Shortlist was. But he says, "The novel Dickens didn't write, but should have done. Simply magnificent." And then the final book that I've got my eye on for January is a paperback release. You can probably guess which one it's going to be. Coming out on the 30th of January. Also, we have the paperback release of Mary I, Queen of Sorrows by Alison Weir. This is the next and final book in Alison Weir's Tudor Roses series. She started with Elizabeth of York, she then jumped to Henry VIII, Elizabeth of York's son, and now she's going back down the generations to Mary I, the first child and first daughter of Henry VIII. And as we have seen through pretty much all of Alison Weir's historical fiction, this is basically going from youth to death, fictionalising the life of her subject. In this case, we have Mary I. I'm so intrigued by this one. I've heard really good things about it, particularly in comparison to Henry VIII, which was a bit more dicey, a bit more of a mixed reception. I quite enjoyed it, but I do understand where the criticism came from. So I'm quite looking forward to seeing if this is a return to form and as good as everybody says. So there we go. Those are the books that I am anticipating for January, both hardback and paperback. Do let me know if any books that you are particularly excited for coming out in this next month. I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic, fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.